Kunjabihari Kunjabihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Gaurani Jai Jaya Gaurani Jai Jaya Gaurani Jai Jaya Gaurani Jai Gaurani Jai Jaya Gaurani Jai Gaurani Jai Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jayam Vishnumad Paramahamsa Parivakacharya Stadara Sadashi Srimad His Divine Grace Ace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Nanta Koti Vaishnava Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya His Divine Grace Ace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mahapuram Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Yamuna Maya Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Vyatmanaga Book Distribution Ki Jai Shalam Distribution Ki Jai New Govardhan Dham Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol All glories to some devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to some devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to some devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Gunshi, Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 8, entitled Manifestation of Brahma from Vishnu, Text 12. Shattu Yuganam Cha Sahasramapsu Swapan Svayodiritaya Svashakja Kalakyaya Sadita Kamatantra Lokanapitan Dadvishe Swadehe Chaturyuganam cha sahasramapsu Sapan Svayodiritaya Svasakya Kalakyaya Sarita Kamatantro Lokanapitan Dadvishe Swadehe Chaturyuganam cha sahasramapsu Sapan Svayodiritaya Svashakya Kalakyaya Sadita Kamatantro Lokanapitan Dadvishe Swadehe Okay, Chatur 4 Yuganam of the millenniums. Cha also Sahasram 1000 Apsu in the water. Sapan dreaming in sleep. Saya with his internal potency. Udiritaya for further development. Svashakya by his own energy. Kala Akyaya by the name Kala. Sadita being so engaged. Kamatantra in the matter of fruitive activities. Lokan, the total living entities. Apitan, bluish. Dadrise, saw it so. Sadehe, in his own body. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Lord lay down for 4,000 yuga cycles in his internal potency, and by his external energy he appeared to be sleeping within the water. When the living entities were coming out for further development of their fruitive activities, actuated by the energy called Kala Shakti, he saw his transcendental body as bluish. Please repeat. The Lord lay down for 4,000 yuga cycles in his internal potency, and by his external energy he appeared to be sleeping within the water. When the living entities were coming out for further development of their fruitive activities, actuated by the energy called Kala Shakti, he saw his transcendental body as bluish. Purport. In the Vishnu Purana, Kala Shakti is mentioned as avidya. The symptom of the influence of the Kala Shakti is that one has to work in the material world for fruitive results. The fruitive workers are described in Bhagavad Gita as mudhas, or foolish. Such foolish living entities are very enthusiastic to work for some temporary benefit within perpetual bondage. One thinks himself very clever throughout his life if he is able to leave behind him a great asset of wealth for his children. And to achieve this temporary benefit, he takes the risk of all sinful activities. without knowledge that such activities will keep him perpetually bound by the shackles of material bondage. Due to this polluted mentality and due to material sins, the aggregate combination of living entities appeared to be bluish. Such an impetus of activity for fruitive result is made possible by the dictation of the external energy of the Lord, Kala. Translation: the Lord lay down for 4,000 yuga cycles in his internal potency, and by his external energy he appeared to be sleeping within the water. When the living entities were coming out for further development of their fruitive activities, actuated by the energy called Kala Shakti, he saw his transcendental body as bluish. Om Gyana Chamandasya Garanjana Salakaya Chakshomalatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So Srila Prabhupada is speaking some strong words here, that basically everyone in the material world, if they're not engaged in devotional service and Krishna consciousness, is engaged in fruitive activities, the selfish motivations. We come to this world because of selfishness, because we want to be the Lord of all we survey. We want to be the master, the controller, the enjoyer. And you cannot have that mentality in the spiritual world. So as soon as you think like that you want to be like Krishna, because there's only one controller and one enjoyer and one master, and that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Everyone else is his servant. So as soon as we think like that, then we're forced to come to this material world. So as long as we're not in Krishna consciousness, then the living entity is forced to be engaged in fruitive activities, forced to engage in so many sinful activities, even against his will, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. But the Srimad Bhagavatam teaches that this human form of life affords one the opportunity to return back home to Godhead. And every living entity, especially in the human form of life, should engage in the loving devotional service to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. And this devotional service to Krishna, even though people are at this stage in the material world, they are averse to Krishna consciousness, they're averse to serving God, they're averse to glorifying God, glorifying Krishna, still this is the natural position of a living entity. Because Krishna, he is the most beloved of all living entities, and he's the master of all living entities. He is the master of every single living entity. All living entities and all species of life are his eternal part and parcels. Krishna claims this in the Bhagavad Gita. Mamavamsa jiva loke jiva buddha sanatana. All living entities are my eternal fragmental parts and parcels. And Krishna is the well-wisher of all living entities. So Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, everyone is looking for peace and happiness in this material world, but people don't know where to look. People don't know that this Krishna consciousness is what they need, what they're actually looking for. Out of ignorance, they're thinking it's something foreign, something not natural. Like when one has jaundice, especially in India, you can get jaundice, disease of the liver, and get very sick. The cure is hot sugarcane juice. But when you first take that hot sugarcane juice, it tastes bitter, because when you have jaundice, everything tastes bitter. But if you take the medicine, the hot sugarcane juice, eventually your disease becomes cured. Disease of jaundice becomes cured, and you can eventually taste the sweetness. So the living entity, by his good fortune, if he comes in contact with the process of devotional service and the devotees of Krishna, and has the opportunity to engage in varieties of devotional service, then his jaundice-like condition of ignorance becomes purified, and gradually he develops a taste for Krishna consciousness. That's like all of us, right? When we first came to Krishna consciousness, it may have seemed quite foreign, quite unusual. Devotees with shaved heads, with wearing bed sheets and saris and dancing and chanting some foreign mantra and eating all this strange food that we'd never come across before. And so it seemed very foreign in the beginning, but eventually when we took to Krishna consciousness, when we became purified more and more, then it seemed very natural. And all these activities are the natural state of the soul. These activities that we're doing now, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, dancing in ecstasy, taking prasadam, associating with devotees, serving the deities, hearing the transcendental pastimes and qualities of Krishna and all his associates. These are the natural activities that the living entities do in the spiritual world, in Goloka Vrindavan and in Vaikuntha. There's constant service and glorification of Krishna and association of Krishna. But in this material world, especially in Kali Yuga, because we're heavily governed by the modes of passion and ignorance, then we have no clue. Nate vidusatam gatim hi Vishnum. The Srimad Bhagavatam says that one does not know that the goal of life is to become fully Krishna conscious and return back home, back to the spiritual world. Andaya tandaya upaniyamanas. That simply the blind people are being led by other blind leaders and they fall into the ditch of material ignorance. So because people don't have this knowledge in general, then they're forced to act on a very materialistic platform, as Srila Prabhupada describes here. They're very enthusiastic to work for some temporary benefit within perpetual bondage. And even Prabhupada says that in the name of, thinking themselves very clever by leaving behind a great asset of wealth for their children, they try to achieve temporary benefit and they take the risk of all sinful activities without the understanding of the reaction for such activities in the future, in this life or the next life. So we see people, they're working very hard and they're prepared to commit all sorts of sinful activities. They're working in horrible places, slaughterhouses, brothels, hotels, gambling casinos, all these horrible places which are accruing vast amounts of sinful reactions just for the sake of making lots of money. I know my father, he worked very hard on his farm, but his farm was just breeding cows for slaughter. So many cows every year, getting sent to the slaughterhouse. But because money is sweeter than honey, for a materialist, that money is everything. It's like his lifeblood. So all morals go out the window when there's a chance to, make lots of wealth, name, fame, position in the material world. But Srila Prabhupada says that these activities are foolish. And the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes one who acts in this way as a mudha, a fool. Lord Rishabhdev says that one should not labour hard day and night for sense gratification, which is available to hogs and dogs that eat stool. One should actually engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service, in which one can become completely satisfied and happy. And so we see people are working very hard, but actually Prabhupada gives the example, it's like an ass, a donkey, especially when you go to India, you see a donkey pulling carts. The donkey is loaded up very high with loads of bricks or wood. And the man has a bundle of dry grass. He's hanging with a stick in front of the donkey. The donkey's thinking, if I just keep working hard, I'll get that bundle of dry grass. And he works hard all day, and at the end of the day, that's all he gets, a bundle of dry grass. But Prabhupada says, if he's intelligent, he could think, well, on the side of the road there's so much green grass. Why do I have to work so hard for that dry grass? So people are working so hard for these temporary goals, temporary satisfaction, which doesn't actually satisfy the soul. If they were actually intelligent, they would look into this real knowledge, the absolute truth, in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and find the clues to real satisfaction of life. And it's not that people have to give up working in their different fields of their life, their different fields of their work for supporting themselves. There's many grihastas who work as doctors, lawyers, policemen, chefs. But the trick in Krishna consciousness is to have a balance. This materialistic society is completely imbalanced. There's no input in spiritual activity, basically. But in Krishna consciousness, we can have a balance. Like Prabhupada says, he's created the morning and evening programs. He called it the sandwich program, where every morning and evening you come to the temple, you hear and chant and worship the deities. And during the day, you go about doing your service or working in your occupation. And for grihastas to make advancement, especially this is mainly a grihasta community, then we give in charity to the temple, we do some service, give our time when we can, do some deity worship like this, attend the programs. So, and this way, those in the household life who are working hard in the material world at some occupation, they can also purify their hard-earned wealth by giving it for a good cause, for use in functions in the temple or for festivals, and also for maintaining their families. And a grihasta's house is like a temple because he's trying to make his family Krishna conscious and invite the sadhus to come and preach in his house and do kirtan and cook for them. So in this way, our house can also be like a temple. But if we don't engage in these activities, then our life is simply like a griha medi. Simply materialistic activities, and we're no better than the foolish ass. Or as Prabhupada compares the materialistic person to a swine who is simply interested in the night soil or the stool. You see this in India. The pigs in Vrindavan, they're running around like eating the stool from the sewers. And if you offer them some halava or some burfi, even New Govardhana burfi in Sandesh, which is famous all around the world, they will refuse it. They'd rather eat their stool. So this is an ordinary materialist. When we approach them, my dear sir, please take some interest in this Krishna consciousness. Please chant Hare Krishna. Please try and read these books. They can solve all your problems of life, give you all answers to your questions and doubts. People will say, no, I'm not interested. I have no time. Get away from here. Prabhupada said, this is a madhouse. People to a lesser or greater degree, they're all mad because they're taking this body to be themselves. They're taking sense gratification to be the real goal of life. They're thinking they can make a permanent situation in this material world. But just like when you go to a mad asylum, people are claiming to be all sorts of people who they are not. Some people may say, one person may say, well, I'm Hitler, or I'm Jesus Christ, or I'm Krishna. So they're all crazy, and sometimes the doctors have to give them an injection to bring them back to some sanity. And the mad patients may say to the doctors, I'm not crazy, you're the crazy one. And they may try and turn the needle around and stab the doctor. So this is the position in the material world. Everyone is in this misconception of life, thinking I'm Australian, English, Chinese, black or white, woman or man, I and mine. So the Bhagavatam, one verse points out that this I and mine, misconceptions of life, it comes about because of the attraction between the male and female. On the basis of this misconception, the attraction of the male and the female, one becomes attracted to his wife, home, children, wealth, friends, relatives, etc. And he thinks in terms of I and mine. I am this. I'm the Lord of this house. I'm I'm a doctor. I'm a lawyer. I'm a president. I'm a prime minister. I'm a queen. I'm a king. And this is mine. Even in Krishna consciousness, we still may have these traits of misconceptions. We always say, this is my wife, my house, my car, my children. There's one devotee at New Gokul down at Cessnock in the Hunter Valley, Amrita Nanabu. He always corrects me whenever I say, my children or my wife. He says, they're not your children. This is not your wife. It's Krishna's wife and Krishna's children. You're just the guest in the house. Actually, in the Vedic culture, the man is seen to be the guest of the house. It's actually, house belongs to the woman. Of course, ultimately it's Krishna's house, but so he always says, you're just the guest in the house, and they're Krishna's property. But that doesn't mean we neglect them, even though they may be Krishna's property, Krishna's children, Krishna's wife, Krishna's house. These things are being given to us to use in Krishna consciousness and to try and make our family Krishna conscious and give them all the necessities that they need. So we have to be responsible and look after those possessions and look after our wife and children properly. So people are so intoxicated without this spiritual knowledge of Krishna consciousness. People are so intoxicated by the temporary pleasures, eating, sleeping, mating and defending, these insignificant pleasures, that they completely forget about the goal of life. They completely forget to inquire, what is the goal of life? Who am I? Who is God? What's my duties and relationship with Krishna? Where do I go beyond this life? People don't ask those questions. And the more they become intoxicated in this world through intoxication, becoming addicted to illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, meat eating, these sinful activities, they further this intoxicated state of forgetfulness and this illusory conception that I am the enjoyer in this world and everything's for my enjoyment. I am the Lord of all I survey. So our position, it was Ramai Swami gave this example as well, that our position is like a man who's being chased by a tiger and he runs to a cliff and he looks down at the bottom in the river, there's some crocodiles. So he can't go back and he can't go down. He'll be killed. So he looks up and there's a branch hanging over the cliff. And he grabs onto that branch and he's gradually losing his strength. And then he sees a bee's hive up in the tree there, and some drops of honey are coming out of the bee's hive, and he catches that honey on his tongue and he's thinking, wow, that's amazing honey. I've never tasted such wonderful honey. And he completely forgets about his impending death. At any moment he's going to lose his grip, fall to the crocodiles. And if he tries to go back on the land, he gets eaten by the tiger. So this is our position in the material world. We become falsely happy through sense gratification and some position and some fame, some distinction, and we can completely forget that at any moment death will come in a few short years. It's like Prabhupada said, the goats in the slaughterhouse. The goats are seeing one by one, they're seeing their friends get taken by the slaughterman and killed. And they get a little fright for a little while, but within a moment they're back eating the grass again, completely forgetting that they are next. So people are trying to make a permanent situation in this world trying to be happy, but Prabhupada says they cannot stay here. They build big mansions and build big palaces, but one cannot stay, one has to go. So this is foolish. And even while one is here, no matter how hard one tries, Srila Prabhupada says, no living being in the material world, from Lord Brahma down to the insignificant ant, is happy in this material world without Krishna consciousness. Even Lord Brahma, even the great demigods are not satisfied, they're not happy unless they're engaged in Krishna consciousness. And all of us can testify to that we've all tried before coming to Krishna consciousness to be happy in many ways, but we were never successful. There was always so much anxiety. Even in the places of so-called enjoyment, people are going to the nightclubs, they're going to the hotels, they're going to the brothels, the horse races. And one who's gone out in Sankirtan distributing books or collecting donations, selling different paraphernalia, of some of us have done over many years, we go to these places sometimes. We go to the horse races, we go to the pubs to collect and sell books. And we see people, even in these places, they're full of anxiety and their lust and their greed and their anger are fueled in these places. So we have this Krishna consciousness is the solution. As Srila Prabhupada says, it gives the solution to all problems. Prabhupada once asked the devotees in Australia, what do you say when you sell these books? Gopinath Acharya Prabhu passed away a few years ago here. He said, he was a little embarrassed and shy. He said to Srila Prabhupada, we say these books are on yoga and meditation. Prabhupada said, you should say these books give the solutions to all the problems of the world. So this Krishna consciousness is the shortcut process back home, back to Godhead. Like if you're climbing Mount Warning, then you can go round and round and round. And it'll take you days and days to get there. But if you just walk up the path, you can walk up there in a couple of hours. Now, if you have an itch on your nose, you can try and go around like that, or you can just go like that. So even in spiritual life, Lord Rishabhdev says, in the 5th canto, that there's many processes of spiritual advancement, like brahmacharis they engage in celibacy, in strict disciplines. The householders follow the rules and regulations of grihastha life. The vanaprasthas perform austerities. The sannyasis engage in traveling and preaching. And this verse says that some people perform austerities of submerging themselves in freezing rivers in the middle of winter, or in the blazing hot sun of summer, they surround themselves with fires under the sun. So there's many different types of disciplines for spiritual advancement. But the verse says that unless one gets smeared with the dust of the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas, then very difficult to make advancement. So here in Krishna consciousness, this is the shortcut process, because every day, 24 hours a day, we're getting smeared with the dust of the lotus feet of so many wonderful devotees, Srila Prabhupada and all his followers. We're getting the association of so many wonderful devotees. We're engaging in this topmost process, chanting Hare Krishna, the Yuga Dham, the Maha Mantra, the greatest mantra for deliverance in the age of Kali. And we're dancing in ecstasy, we're taking prasadam every day, we're engaging in a variety of wonderful services to Sri Sri Radha Govardhan, and we're reading these topmost literatures. Srimad Bhagavatam, these are eternal, transcendental literatures, full of description of Krishna and his associates, full of description of their names, their qualities, their pastimes, the creations of all the universes, description of not only the material universes, but all the spiritual universes as well. Everything is there. So Srila Prabhupada said, one can, if one just reads one word or one line or one page of these books, his life can become eternally benefited. That's how powerful these literatures, how powerful this Krishna consciousness is. And we can become so fixed up in Krishna consciousness, so purified, that even though we go out into society, even into hellish cities like Service Paradise and Sydney and Melbourne and New York and Los Angeles, where there's so many sinful activities going on, the devotees are not attracted. So this Krishna consciousness is giving us great protection from these material tendencies in this material world, and for being dragged down to ultimately the animal form of life. Srila Prabhupada says, unless one engages in Krishna consciousness, if one is engaged simply in bestial, animalistic propensities in his next life, you'll achieve a more suitable body to fulfill that desire. Like those pictures in the Bhagavad Gita. One who just bases his whole life on eating and eating horrible foodstuffs, he gets the body of a pig in his next life. One who wants to be naked, then body of a tree. So there's better bodies to suit these material desires. Human life was meant for Tato Brahma Jigasha. Now that we've achieved this human form of life, we should inquire, who am I? What is the goal of life? How can I become Krishna conscious? How can I become free from all the problems of life? Get free from this cycle of birth and death and ultimately attain that eternal occupation, which is pure, loving, devotional service to Krishna. This is the birthright of all living entities. Like Srila Prabhupada said, that the natural position of water is liquidity. Sometimes the water becomes frozen, but that's not its natural state. When the sun comes out, it comes back to its natural state. The natural state of the microphone is to emit loud sound. So the natural state of the living entity is to render loving devotional service to Krishna. And if he's not doing this, then he's in an unnatural state. And that natural state is within the hearts of all living entities. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sajjakavanaya Shravanadi Suddhi Chedikaliyadaya. That pure Krishna consciousness is within the hearts of all living entities. Cannot be taken away. But when people are engaged in the right process, like Srila Prabhupada has given us this transcendental pure process, that pure love for Krishna can be brought out from any living entity. Even the most sinful person can be elevated to the topmost platform of pure devotional service. Like Srila Prabhupada says, previously my disciples were drug addicts, they were meat eaters, they were sex mongers, they were gamblers. They were looking very unhappy and morose. Now they're looking like they're ladies and gentlemen from Goloka and Vaikuntha, with bright faces, wearing saris and dhotis, and very purified in their heart and engaging in so many wonderful activities of service to Krishna. So this is the transformation. So we have to have faith in Krishna consciousness. Krishna says, Sradhadhana Purusha Dhammasasya Prantapa. Those who don't have faith in this Krishna consciousness cannot become free from the cycle of birth and death. They return again to this material world. So we have to have faith, not just blind faith, but faith with realization, faith with deep knowledge that, yes, this process is actually giving me real happiness. It's giving me my real eternal connection with Krishna. It's giving me freedom from all anxieties and all material desires, which are the source of all misery in this material world. So that faith with knowledge and realization is developed through engaging in devotional service. So Srila Prabhupada gives a story in this regard. There was a Brahmana and a cobbler. Cobbler is a bootmaker. And Narada Muni, who preaches all throughout the universe, one time he came across this cobbler and Brahmana. And first he saw the Brahmana, and the Brahmana was eager to know when he would get liberation. And he said, to Narada Muni, I heard you're going to the spiritual world sometimes. Can you ask Lord Krishna when I'll get liberation? And can you find out what he was doing? And so Narada Muni, he said, yes, I can do that. And then he came across a cobbler, and the cobbler said, oh, my dear Narada Muni, I hear you're going to see my Lord Krishna in the spiritual world. Can you ask him when I will get liberation? And can you also tell me what he was doing at that time when you saw him? So Narada Muni said, yes, I can do that. And he traveled all through the universes. He came back to the spiritual world to see Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna was asking, so how's your preaching in the material worlds? And Narada Muni said, yes, it's very nice. So many amazing personalities I'm meeting in the course of my preaching. And I met one Brahmana, and he was asking when he will get liberation. And Krishna said, well, you can tell him he won't get liberation for millions of births. And Narada Muni was a bit surprised. This Brahmana seemed quite a sort of pure personality. And so what shall I tell him you were doing, my Lord? And Krishna said, tell him I was busy putting an elephant through an eye of a needle. And Narada Muni was thinking, no, is he going to believe this? And anyway, he said, then there was a cobbler, and he was also asking the same question, my Lord. And Krishna said, oh, the cobbler, he's my great devotee. He will come back to Godhead at the end of this life. And you can tell him I was putting an elephant through an eye of a needle. So Narada Muni left, and he came and he met the Brahmana, and the Brahmana said, oh, so what's the news? And Narada Muni said, unfortunately, the Lord said you won't come back to the spiritual world for millions of births. And the Brahmana said, well, that's ridiculous. I know all the scriptures. I'm, engaged in so much austerity and sacrifice. And what was the Lord doing? Narada Muni said, well, he was putting an elephant through an eye of a needle. And the Brahmana said, that's ridiculous. How can anyone do that? Narada Muni said, well, take it or leave it. And he left, and he came across the cobbler, and he said, good news to you, cobbler. The Lord said, you're coming back at the end of this life. And the cobbler said, oh, that's amazing. My Lord is so kind. I don't deserve it. I'm such a fallen personality. And what was the Lord doing? Well, he was putting an elephant through an eye of a needle. And the cobbler said, oh, that's amazing. My Lord, he can do anything. He is the Lord. Why can't he do that? But he didn't just have blind faith. He gave an example. There was a fig tree with thousands of fruits on it. And he said, in each of these figs, there's thousands of seeds, and each of those seeds has the potency to produce another huge fig tree. If the Lord can invest the potency in each of those seeds to produce another huge fig tree, where is it difficult for him to put an elephant through an eye of a needle? So we have to have faith through realization that this chanting of Hare Krishna and hearing these transcendental pastimes of Krishna and his devotees and engaging in devotional service associated with devotees, that these processes can give us complete satisfaction and give us that eternal connection once again with the Lord of our heart, with Krishna. So this chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it is the Yuga Dharma. It's the process for all of the entities to attain eternal Krishna consciousness in this age of Kali. So that's why Srila Prabhupada, he would always stress to devotees that alongside cultivating our own Krishna consciousness, we should give Krishna consciousness to others as much as possible. So we have so many people coming here, we try and inspire them in Krishna consciousness, we invite them to kirtan, invite them to do devotional service, invite them to come and hear this philosophy, and we take this Krishna consciousness out on the streets, because it may seem like there's a lot of people coming here, and there is quite a few people coming here every day, new people, but compared to the whole population of Australia, it's maybe a few thousand out of 25 million. So what about the other 24 million, 995,000? What about those people? How are they going to get Krishna consciousness? They're not going to come here automatically. So that's why in Kali Yuga you have to take the temple out to the people by going out distributing books, going out in Harinam Sankirtan, distributing prasadam to the masses of people out there. Many people out there, we think, oh, everyone knows about Hare Krishna these days. It's been around for 50 years in the West, but no, you go out there, you meet many people. Even you can go to Byron Bay or just down the road, Malambimbi, you meet people who never heard of Hare Krishna. So we have a big job to do, and we should, as much as possible, go out and spread this Christian consciousness. The more we can go out, the more people will be benefited eternally, even if they just hear the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, get one mouthful of prasadam, touch these books. Prabhupada said even if they touch the books, even if they don't read them, they're freed from more sins than they could commit in millions of lifetimes. This Christian consciousness is so powerful. And the more we go out and the more people see us, like the other day I went on Harinam with the devotees in Byron Bay at the markets, and there was like thousands of people there. And Jester came out. It was her first time for a few years she'd been out because she's been quite sick, and she was dancing. And a couple of my youngest kids were there. And so many people were seeing the Harinam Sankirtan. And if we can go out more regularly like that, then people's consciousness will become more infused with remembering Hare Krishna or thinking Hare Krishna or thinking of the devotees. Like in the early days when the devotees used to go out 10 or 12 hours a day chanting Hare Krishna, people would see them all the time, everywhere they went, every festival, every street corner, they'd see the devotees. So people were saying, oh, you Hare Krishnas everywhere. So that's what we want. We want people to be thinking Hare Krishna all the time, right? So how they're going to be thinking of the Hare Krishnas or thinking of the song Hare Krishna if we don't go out and take it on the streets? So somehow, like I know Kadamba Kanna Maharaj, who just passed away, he would always encourage his disciples, if you listen to his lectures, read his books, he's always saying like, we should think how we can do something big, do something special, like not just in our own lives, but the whole society in general, how we can really extend this Christian consciousness in a big way. So I was thinking a few years ago, I organised a couple of 24-hour Harinams out on the street. Like we did 12 hours Saturday and we did 12 hours on Sunday. Once we did in Byron Bay, and it was nice. We sat at the book table and we had prasadam going all day, and we had different devotees coming through the day, like leading kirtan. And we did like 9 to 9 on Saturday and 9 to 9 on Sunday. And we did it in Sydney once as well. And I was thinking, yeah, we should try and do that again. And maybe try and do it on a regular basis, whether it's once a week or once a month, and give more and more exposure to the poor conditioned souls. And we were just yesterday, we were those poor conditioned souls out there floundering on the street with no understanding whatsoever of the goal of life or who we are and what's our relationship with Krishna. So we have to have this compassionate mood that how can we really help these suffering souls out there. Unless we go out to give them Christian consciousness, there's no other process that is giving them real substance of spiritual development, spiritual understanding. There's so many so-called spiritual groups and religious organizations, but Prabhupada would say, where is the institution? Big universities, colleges around the world, he would say, where is the institution that is teaching the science of the soul? These big universities, in America, England, Harvard, Yale, huge famous universities, been going for hundreds of thousands of years, but where is any of these big universities that is even teaching the basic knowledge that we're not this body, that we're an eternal soul, that we have an eternal relationship with Krishna, that we don't belong in this material world? There's no knowledge whatsoever. So we have a very important task at hand, and we should all think, how can I be part of this preaching mission? But as I said, there's also many people coming here. We can try and inspire in Christian consciousness. And we should all of us individually and collectively be thinking, how can we spread it on a huge scale in general society as well. So if we have any opportunity to go out, Harinam Sankirtan, book distribution, Prasadam distribution, go out with the devotees is wonderful, wonderful opportunity. It's very enlivening, very ecstatic. And just like last Sunday when we were doing Harinam, there was like thousands of people and so many people waving to us and smiling at us, and a number of people chanting Hare Krishna as we went past. So we'll finish there. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Is there a microphone? Yep.
Thank you for the class, Master.
Hare Krishna.
It occurred to me when you were talking about Paranam being there, that if someone's never heard of Hare Krishna, the song or the chanting, that if that's the first time they've ever heard it, and they're contemplating, what is this? And this might sound more thought, but when they were to leave their body that night or that day, they started thinking about Krishna, so that would be beneficial to them, wouldn't it?
Yeah, or they would get like at least a human form of life in the next life and get more opportunity to associate with devotees and do devotional service and hear the Hare Krishna mantra. It's stated in the Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter, you can read the verse 640, 41, that one who is unsuccessful after short practice of yoga or Krishna consciousness, he's born into pious family of brahmanas or rich aristocratic family, so he gets a good sort of birth in his next life and another opportunity for engagement in Krishna consciousness. And one who is unsuccessful after long practice, it states that he's born into a family of devotees in his next life. So yeah, just even once hearing the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, taking prasadam, people are freed from all their past sinful activity. I remember my father, when he was about to pass away, my sister rang me up at like 4 a.m. and said, looks like Dad is going to leave really soon. So I jumped in the car and he was right down in Barrow, which is south of Sydney, a long drive. And just after driving, I thought I'll stop and I'll FaceTime my sister and chant to my father, so I can see him on the FaceTime. So I stopped on the outskirts of Murwillumbah and I FaceTimed and I was just chanting Hare Krishna like for a few minutes. And then I told my sister, I'll keep driving, see if I can make it. And so that was, that was the last thing he heard, practically, the Maha Mantra. And my sister rang me up a few hours after and he'd passed away. But he was, he did a lot of service. He paid for most of my house in town, paid for my wedding, gave cars to me, different things like that. And he took a lot of prasadam. And in his last days in the nursing home, one time he used to get delirious because he had Parkinson's disease. And he'd tell me all these wonderful sort of dreams or things that he did, which he didn't actually do. He used to tell me he used to sneak out of the nursing home. He had a getaway car. When the nurses weren't looking, he'd jump into the car and take off to Sydney and go to the golf club because he was a member of the Sydney Golf Club for 50 years. So he said, he called me by my English name, Roland. He said, Roland, I went to the golf club in my car and he said, guess who was cooking there? And I said, who? And he said, the Hare Krishnas. And I was thinking maybe it was because a couple of years before he came to my wedding down here at the lake and he paid for the whole thing, like $10,000, and he was the first one to sit down and eat the feast. And he was really enjoying the wedding. So maybe that was why he was thinking like that at the end. Anyway, so even if we give people small benefit, it has huge repercussions on the spiritual platform. And like Prabhupada says, even what to speak of humans, even animals can be engaged in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada says even an animal, even a child, even an old person, anyone. I know my daughter, one time we were driving home in my car, and then I've got the van at home, and she saw the van with the chant Hare Krishna signs, and she's only 3, and she said, "Oh, there's your van." And then she immediately corrected herself and said, "Oh, there's Krishna's van." Because I say to her all the time, whose van is this? When we come to the farm, whose farm? And she says, "Krishna's farm." Whose cows? Krishna's cows. So now she's saying it herself. As soon as we come to the farm, she says, "Oh, there's Krishna's river. There's Krishna's cows, there's Krishna's temple," like that. Even a little child can become Krishna conscious and be engaged in Krishna consciousness. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so we'll finish there. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Go Premanandi, Hari Hari.